Hello, welcome to the first commentary track of Obituary Cursed. This is Michael.
This is Zach over here.
We're starting with the title page, which actually, right before we started working on the title page, I sort of threw a curveball at Zach.
Yeah, so we, for a pretty long time, we envisioned Faceless as like a bulkier character. We were always going with the conquistador look, but we were looking at someone more like warrior-like, armor-clad.
A lot of that was more just trying to lean on like a traditional conquistador, whereas a lot of what Faceless is not a traditional conquistador, and we found ourselves a little more married to it. Whereas I just was thinking about like some poses and stuff like that, and also we were thinking in terms of simplicity to draw.
Yeah, like the original Faceless design had a lot more like armor plating, and like the pants were more elaborate. This one's a lot easier to draw, and also like from my perspective more fun to draw. I really like drawing these like lithe characters. We actually don't have very many like this in Obituary with like the longer fingers. And I really like this style of finger. This is like something that this is like my freestyle sketching mostly. Tend to have longer fingers like this.
There were a handful of different iterations that we were kicking back and forth. We were actually on a camping trip in Pinnacles.
Oh yeah, we were on that. We were coming through Pinnacles at that time.
Yeah, as we were driving, Zach was sketching and just occasionally being like, "What about this?" And so ultimately, we landed on this variation of Faceless.
It has some Jack Skellington in there. It has some of the original, like, traditional conquistador in there still.
Right.
One of the things we talked about a bunch was the use of the cape and how it can make itself look much more menacing with the whole cape over its shoulders. I'm gesturing now. I don't know why I'm doing that, because you can't see that. But having the cape over its shoulders, it can be a lot bigger, or it can stand really tall and have the cape like come out behind it.
We had an early sketch of the like Mewtwo neutral that we described, where as
drifting
like
forward thing.
Right, figuring out whether Faceless, because that was something that we talked about, like, does Faceless touch the ground?
We also like the question, does Faceless have legs? That was because Faceless is our only undead, not ghost.
It's a phantasm with properties unlike anything that you've currently seen in the Obituary universe. And so we needed to ask a lot of questions of like, how much can we or not play with? But now to talk a little bit more about the cover specifically.
Oh yeah, sure.
This was almost holistically your design.
Like
sometimes in case you were unaware, in terms of layout, I'm usually the one who constructs the initial layout. Zach does all the drawing, and then I do all the color. And so in this go, Zach like just threw out a handful of ideas, and this was the one that we ultimately stuck with.
I liked the idea of Faceless playing sort of like a deity role here, because Faceless is very powerful and conniving. And
shuffling everything in June's life about.
Yeah.
Both a metaphorical and literal shuffling.
And because Faceless has a gambling addiction. Oh, I'll mention one other, I know I'm jumping a little bit, but one other thing about the design that has changed a little bit is Faceless's original design incorporated more of playing cards into it. It has a sword, which we don't see in this episode, which used to be a part of the design, and part of that used to be a club, and it used to have a diamond and a heart on the back of its hands.
Right.
And it has a spade inside the peacock feather.
We leaned a lot more heavily on the card motif with the original design, whereas this one, it's anytime it explodes or reappears periodically, poker chips or playing cards or dice might manifest,
making the whole space kind of filled with stuff, which we love doing.
Yeah,
as you probably have noticed,
we're big on making messes, which when we get to those tracks later, we'll curse ourselves.
Why did we pick those places to put? Anyway,
but yeah, so in this, like, we actually allude to two characters that you're going to be meeting later in the episode.
The octopus and the cat.
Yes.
And the cat we ended up actually changing some colors on. And the octopus, I mean, never wears that hat, but that's just an allusion to being the Joker.
Right.
In the deck.
As far as just visual, this one, coming off of Home Ectoplasm, I got a handful of different brush...
oh yeah, can you talk about like the brushes and style? Because you've done some really cool stuff here.
Yeah, I mean, this was like, I got a brush pack that was like watercolors, and that just sort of allowed, when we were actually coloring different test options of Faceless, I started playing around with this just because I'd had it and I wasn't really sure. And so as I started dragging it around, I was like, I kind of like Faceless having this splotchy blackness that follows. And then there was also something from the pilot even that we had wanted to sort of replicate a little more closely. Studio Yada had done a really good job in creating like a watercolor painterly look onto background. So I downloaded some colored pencil texture packs and some watercolor packs. So that was, we started like applying that in halftones to mortals and cloud textures to ghosts. Yeah. But that's more for the next page.
I can talk a bit about the different cards.
Oh, sure.
There was some mild significance to the cards. I didn't even tell you this.
No, you didn't. I'm interested.
Yeah, so I gave Blatzy the heart and modeled Blatzy after the Queen of Hearts because I thought, Blatzy's very happy-go-lucky about the whole thing. And it's also smiling.
So not going off of the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, nope, didn't think about that. Okay, so I guess there's some other...
You went more with the love connotation as Blatzy's a caring soul.
Yeah, as Blatzy's a caring soul. And with June, I went with spades. I wanted to go with either spades or clubs, but I thought that clubs seemed to, like... I guess spades and clubs both have warlike connotations.
But spade has a more earthy connotation.
Yeah, and I felt it was appropriate. Like, it's a shovel and, working in a cemetery. And I modeled June after the one-eyed Jack. And then for the I didn't really have a specific card in mind for the Black Cat, but I did want to go with diamonds because I didn't want to do like the same ones that I'd done before. And then the Joker I thought was appropriate for the octopus because it's got like tentacles everywhere.
Yeah, and to sort of close out as far as titling went, like this was again we were really trying to play around with color a little bit more. We just wanted to be a little off. So cursed, like it feels as if the RGB is sort of splitting a little bit.
Yeah, it does that.
And that's something that you'll also be kind of seeing later in this tale of Cursed. So, yeah, that was the cover of Cursed. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you for listening.
And we'll have another page for y'all later. Bye.